March 10th, 1945, a sodden field east of Linz am Rhein, Germany. The world has shrunk to the smell of wet wool and pine needles. For 19-year-old Luftwaffenhelferin Anneliese Schmidt, the grand crusade for the fatherland now consists of this: hiding in a shallow ditch, her gray-blue uniform clinging to her skin like a second, colder layer of flesh. The sky, a uniform slate of German misery, weeps a ceaseless, chilling drizzle. Somewhere to the west, beyond the skeletal fingers of the forest, the Rhine River flows, and on the other side of it, the Americans. They are no longer a distant threat from a newsreel. They are a sound, a deep, guttural rumble that vibrates through the mud and into her bones. It is the sound of an army that does not stop. Her unit, the 3rd Battery of Flak Regiment 12, has ceased to exist. 2 days ago, it was a functioning cog in the Reich's defense, its powerful 88mm guns pointed skyward, a defiant fist against the Allied bomber streams. Annaliese's job was not to fire the guns, but to serve them. She was a communications auxiliary, a blitz model, a lightning girl, trained to relay coordinates from the command post to the gun crews with speed and precision. She had been proud of her work, of the clean snap of the telephone receiver, the crisp cadence of her voice cutting through the static. Now the static has won. The command post is a crater. The guns are twisted scrapyards of steel, their long barrels pointing at the earth in obscene surrender. Oberlieutenant Vogel, a man whose stern face had seemed carved from granite, had gathered the last dozen of them an hour ago. His eyes, usually so sharp and commanding, were hollowed out, defeated. "It's over here," he'd said, his voice a dry rasp. "Every man for himself. Head east. Avoid the roads. God be with you." Then he had walked toward the woods with his pistol in his hand, and no one had followed. Anneliese is with 2 others. Klaus, a boy of 16 with the pale wisps of a first mustache, drafted straight from the Hitler Jugend into a flat crew, and Feldwebel Richter, a portly sergeant in his late 40s, a veteran of France who wheezes with every breath. They are all that remains. Richter clutches his Kar 98K rifle as if it's a religious icon, while Klaus has only a trench knife and the paralyzing fear of a boy who has seen too much too soon. The rumbling is closer now. It is joined by a new sound, the sharp metallic clatter of tank treads on the nearby cobblestone road, and the high-pitched whine of engines running in low gear. Richter motions them deeper into the ditch. "Bleib unten," he hisses. "Stay down." The words are barely out of his mouth when another sound rips through the air, a series of deafening cracks that are not thunder. You can feel the pressure wave of each report in your chest. It's the sound of American tank guns, firing at something down the road. It's followed by the chattering roar of a machine gun, a sound like a giant tearing a sheet of canvas. Klaus whimpers, burying his face in the mud. Anneliese squeezes her eyes shut, her mind a vortex of half-remembered prayers, and the face of her mother in Dresden, a city she now knows is gone. The firing stops as abruptly as it started. The silence that follows is heavier, more terrifying than the noise. The only sounds are the dripping rain, Richter's labored breathing, and the relentless, grinding advance of the American machines. Then voices. They are loud, confident, and utterly alien. English, a language she has only heard in propaganda films, spoken by caricatures of gangsters and cowboys. But this is no film. The voices are real, and they are getting closer. Richter slowly, carefully lifts his head over the edge of the ditch. His body goes rigid. He drops back down, his face ashen. "Panzer," he whispers, the word catching in his throat. "Shermans and infantry, dozens of them." A shadow falls over them. Anneliese looks up, and her breath catches in her throat. Standing on the edge of the ditch is a giant, a man impossibly tall in his olive drab uniform and strange bowl-shaped helmet. His face is smeared with dirt and exhaustion, and in his hands he holds a rifle, an M1 Garand she recognizes from recognition charts, pointed directly at them. He doesn't look like a caricature. He just looks tired and dangerous. He shouts something. It is not a question. It is a command. Richter slowly raises his hands. Klaus, sobbing openly now, does the same. Anneliese's arms feel like lead weights, but she forces them up, her fingers trembling against the gray sky. More figures appear, surrounding the ditch, their weapons all aimed at the 3 defeated Germans. This is it. The moment she has been trained for, warned about, and dreaded above all others.
the moment of capture. Her war is over. But as she stares into the impassive eyes of the American soldier, a cold, sickening fear tells her that the real battle, the one for her own survival, has just begun.
The world has become mud and motion. There is no longer a sense of time, only a relentless, shuffling procession forward. Annalise is one of 1,000, then 2,000, then a river of gray-clad figures flowing west, back toward the Rhine. They are a defeated army in microcosm, a collection of broken parts. There are grizzled veterans of the Wehrmacht, their faces etched with the bitter knowledge of Stalingrad and Normandy. There are old men in ill-fitting Volkssturm uniforms, their eyes wide with disbelief, pulled from their shops and offices only weeks ago to fight a war already lost. And there are boys, so many boys, like Klaus, their smooth cheeks now smudged with dirt and tears, the bravado of the Hitlerjugend stripped away to reveal the terrified children beneath. She has lost sight of Richter and Klaus. In the first chaotic moments of surrender, they were separated, swallowed by the sheer mass of prisoners being herded onto the road. Now she is alone, an anonymous face in a crowd of ghosts haunting their own country. The American guards are efficient, almost detached. They walk alongside the column in pairs, their M1 rifles held at a casual port, their movements economical and weary. They rarely shout. A gesture, a nudge with a rifle butt, is usually enough. They are a force of nature, like a flood tide, and the column of prisoners is the debris being swept along. You learn the new rhythms of life quickly. You learn to march with your head down, to avoid eye contact. You learn that the gnawing emptiness in your stomach is a constant companion, a dull ache that eclipses all other sensations. She hasn't eaten in 2 days, save for a stale piece of hard bread she'd had in her pocket. Thirst is a layer on top of the hunger, a dry, rasping fire in her throat that the constant drizzle does nothing to quench. She watches as a man next to her, a Luftwaffe ground crewman with a haggard face, stumbles and falls. 2 guards haul him to his feet without a word and push him back into the line. There is no malice in the action, just an impersonal assembly line process of moving human cargo from one point to another. The sheer scale of the defeat is staggering. At every crossroads, their column is joined by more prisoners, flowing in from the hills and forests like tributaries into a great gray river. They pass the wreckage of their own army, overturned Opel Blitz trucks, their wheels pointing to the sky, abandoned Panzerfausts lying in the ditches like discarded toys, the occasional blackened husk of a Panzer IV tank, its cannon silent forever. This is not a retreat. This is a disintegration. Her status as a woman makes her an object of curiosity, and sometimes scorn. From the other German prisoners, she gets looks that range from pity to contempt. A woman had no place here. From the Americans, the looks are different. They are appraising, curious. She pulls her field cap lower, trying to hide her face, to make herself smaller, less conspicuous. The propaganda minister, Dr. Goebbels, had promised that the Americans were barbarians, that capture, especially for a woman, meant a fate worse than death. Every time a guard's gaze lingers on her for a moment too long, her heart hammers against her ribs, and the minister's frantic, screeching voice echoes in her mind. She is terrified not of a quick death, but of a slow, brutal violation that she has been told is inevitable. Late in the afternoon, the column is finally halted. They are directed off the road into a large, muddy pasture, bordered by a low stone wall and a ruined barn. This is a collection point. The air is thick with the smell of wet earth, unwashed bodies, and despair. Thousands of German soldiers are already there, sitting or lying in the mud, their faces blank, their shoulders slumped in the universal posture of the defeated. Jeeps and GMC trucks churn at the perimeter, their headlights cutting through the growing dusk. Annalise finds a spot against the cold, damp stones of the barn's foundation, pulling her knees to her chest to conserve what little warmth she has left. The drizzle has turned into a steady, miserable rain. It soaks through her thin wool coat, chilling her to the marrow. She is just one among thousands, a single shivering soul in a sea of loss. But here, in the relative stillness, the fear returns with a vengeance. The guards are more visible now, standing watch on the edges of the field. They are shadows in long coats, their helmets dripping with rain. They are the masters of this new, wretched world. She watches them, her eyes wide, every nerve ending screaming with a primal animal terror. The day is ending, and the long, dark night is coming. A night with no shelter, no food, no hope. Only the mud, the rain, and the enemy. And she knows with a certainty that freezes her blood that something terrible is about to happen.
The darkness in the field is not complete. It is a bruised, watery twilight, pierced by the harsh yellow beams of truck headlamps that sweep across the huddled masses of prisoners, turning them into a landscape of shifting silhouettes. The rain has found a way through a crack in the barn's damaged roof, and a steady drip, drip, drip lands just beside Annalise's head, each drop a tiny hammer striking the mud. She has managed to wedge herself further into the corner where the foundation meets the remains of a stone wall, a pathetic attempt to find shelter, to become invisible. Around her, the sounds of the defeated are a low, constant murmur, a cough, a quiet sob, the rustle of a threadbare uniform as a man shifts his weight, trying in vain to find a position that is not pure misery. There is no conversation. The energy for words has long since been expended. All that remains is the collective, silent endurance of thousands of men, waiting for a dawn they cannot be sure will come. For Annalise, the silence is worse than the marching. During the march, there was at least the rhythm of her own footsteps, the focus of putting one foot in front of the other. Here, there is only the cold, the hunger, and the waiting. Waiting for what, she does not know, and that is the purest form of terror. She watches the American guards. They move with a purpose that seems alien in this place of utter stagnation. They carry their rifles with an ease born of long familiarity. They speak to each other in low tones, their words lost to the rain, but the sound of their language is a constant reminder of her powerlessness. You are no longer Annalise Schmidt, a communications specialist from Leipzig. You are a thing, a prisoner, property of the United States Army. Her gaze fixes on one of them. He is standing near a jeep parked by the broken gate of the pasture, lit from behind by its headlamps. He is bigger than the others, his shoulders broad under his wet poncho. He carries a different kind of weapon, a Browning automatic rifle, its bulky form instantly recognizable and deeply intimidating. He is talking to another soldier. Then he turns and begins to walk the perimeter of the holding area, his heavy boots squelching in the mud. He is moving in her direction. Annalise's heart begins to pound a frantic, suffocating rhythm against her ribs. She presses herself harder against the stone wall, as if she could melt into it. Don't see me. Please don't see me. The soldier walks slowly, deliberately, his gaze sweeping over the huddled figures. He is not looking for anything in particular. He is simply observing his flock of captives. His beam from a small flashlight cuts a white slash through the gloom, moving from one ghostly face to another. He is a shepherd, and they are his sheep, penned in for the slaughter. Dr. Goebel's words come back to her, unbidden. They will separate the women. They are animals, gangsters, defilers. The beam of light moves closer. It passes over a sleeping old man, a boy with his face in his hands, a weary officer staring at nothing. It touches her boots. Annalise freezes, her entire body a single taut nerve. The beam travels slowly up her legs, her torso, and then stops, blindingly, on her face. She squints, raising a hand to shield her eyes, a useless, instinctual gesture. The light stays on her. She can't see the man behind it, only the brilliant, painful glare. He is walking towards her. Out of the thousands of prisoners in this field, he has chosen her. Each squelching footstep in the mud is a drumbeat marking the final seconds of her life as she knows it. The other prisoners nearby seem to shrink away, creating a small, isolated stage for this private drama. No one will help her. No one can. The soldier stops directly in front of her, the circle of light still fixed on her face. He is a vast, dark shape, a mountain of olive drab and menace, blotting out the rest of the world. She can smell the wet canvas of his poncho, the faint metallic scent of his weapon, and something else, the unfamiliar Swedish scent of American cigarettes. He says nothing. He just stands there, looking down at her, the flashlight pinning her like an insect. Annalise trembles uncontrollably, a violent shudder that racks her entire frame. She lowers her hand from her face, her eyes wide with a terror so absolute it has gone beyond sound. This is the moment, the culmination of all her fears. He is going to pull her to her feet. He is going to drag her into the darkness behind the barn. My mind screams, a silent, frantic litany of please, no, please, God, no. The world narrows to the blinding light and the looming shadow of the American soldier standing over her. The silence stretches, taut and humming like a high-tensioned wire. Annalise is locked in a state of petrified anticipation, her body braced for the inevitable violence. The soldier's shadow is an abyss, ready to swallow her whole. The blinding flashlight beam does not waver. In its unwavering focus, she feels not like a person, but an object under intense scrutiny, a specimen to be examined before being discarded. She can hear her own ragged breathing, loud and harsh in the suffocating quiet. Then he moves, but it is not the rough, sudden motion she expects. He doesn't reach for her. Instead, with a weary grunt, he shifts the heavy BAR to his other hand and slowly, deliberately crouches down. The movement is fluid, practiced, the motion of a man who has spent countless hours making himself small behind cover. As he lowers himself, the beam of the flashlight gips, illuminating the muddy ground between them. Now she is looking at him on her own level. He is no longer a towering monster, but a man, a very large, very tired man. His face is now visible in the ambient light from the distant headlamps. It is younger than she expected, perhaps only a few years older than herself. Streaks of mud are caked in the stubble on his jaw, and deep lines of exhaustion are carved around his eyes. They are not the eyes of a brute or a predator. They are simply the eyes of a soldier who has seen too much and slept too little. He clicks off the flashlight, plunging them back into the shared gloom. The sudden darkness is a relief. He speaks. His voice is low, rough with fatigue, the English words completely incomprehensible to her. "You okay, kid? You're shaken like a leaf." To Annalise, it is just a sound, a foreign rumble. But the tone, it is not harsh. It is not demanding. It is something else. It is quiet. She can only stare, her throat clamped shut with fear. She cannot form a word of German, let alone English. She probably looks like a cornered animal, and perhaps in his eyes, that's what she is. He seems to understand that his words are meaningless. He sighs, a small puff of white vapor in the cold air. He looks at her for another long moment, his gaze taking in her thin, soaked uniform and the way she is trying to fold into herself for warmth. Then he looks away, scanning the miserable sea of prisoners around them as if making a decision. He turns back to her and begins to unbutton a large pocket on his field jacket. Annalise flinches violently, a fresh wave of panic surging through her. A weapon? A knife? Her mind races. He sees her reaction, and he pauses, his hands freezing for a second. He shakes his head slightly, a small, almost imperceptible gesture of reassurance. Then slowly, very slowly, he reaches inside the pocket and pulls something out. It is not a weapon. It is a small, rectangular object wrapped in brown wax paper. He holds it in his gloved palm, offering it to her. Annalise stares at it, her mind unable to process what she is seeing. It is a bar of some kind. Food. He is offering her food. The thought is so alien, so completely contrary to every expectation she holds, that she cannot move. He nudges his hand a little closer. He says another word, soft and encouraging. Chocolate. She recognizes that word. Chocolata. He is offering her chocolate. Her eyes move from the bar in his hand to his face, searching for a trick, a trap. There is none. There is only the weary, impassive face of a young man who has made a simple human gesture. With a trembling hand that feels disconnected from her body, she reaches out. Her fingers, numb with cold, brush against his rough leather glove as she takes the bar. It feels solid, heavy, real. He gives a single, curt nod. He does not smile. He does not wait for thanks she cannot give. The transaction is complete. With another grunt, he pushes himself back to his feet, his joints cracking in protest. He readjusts the heavy BAR on its strap, gives one last look down at her huddled form, and then turns and walks away, his boots making their familiar squelching sound as he disappears back into the rain and the darkness, just one anonymous guard resuming his patrol. Annalise stares at the chocolate bar in her hand. Her fingers struggle with the wax paper, finally tearing a corner. Inside is a dark, almost black block of chocolate. She breaks off a small piece and puts it in her mouth. The taste is strange, not sweet and milky like the German chocolate of her memory, but dense, coarse, and slightly bitter. Yet as it slowly melts on her tongue, it is the most profound thing she has ever tasted. It is more than just sugar and cocoa. It is a signal, a crack in the monolithic wall of her terror. It is the first, shocking, and undeniable proof that the enemy she was taught to fear, the faceless monster, is alive.
The chocolate is gone in minutes, devoured in small, deliberate bites that she forces herself to savor. The act of eating, of feeling the small burst of energy from the sugar, is a physical anchor in a world that has come unmoored. But the lingering effect of the gesture is far more powerful than its caloric value. As Annalise sits in the cold mud, the rain still falling, something fundamental inside her has shifted. The fear has not vanished.
It is still there, a cold stone in the pit of her stomach, but it is no longer absolute. It now has a counterpoint, a single, inexplicable act of kindness. The night passes in a blur of shivering and exhaustion. At dawn, a gray, washed-out light reveals the full, squalid misery of the prison field. The Americans begin to organize the chaos. Shouted commands echo across the pasture. Prisoners are herded into new lines, counted, and loaded onto a long convoy of GMC trucks. The process is rough, impersonal, and efficient. Annalise is pushed along with the rest, her feet leaden, her mind still replaying the moment in the dark. As she is helped up into the back of a truck by another prisoner, she scans the faces of the American guards, searching for the one from the night before. But they are all anonymous in their helmets and ponchos, their faces grim with the business of war. She will never see him again. She will never know his name. The journey to the permanent prisoner of war camp near Bad Kreuznach is long and brutal. They are crowded into the open-top trucks, exposed to the elements. The hunger returns, sharper than before. Yet Annalise endures it with a new, quiet resilience. The world is still a terrifying place, but it is no longer entirely without light. The memory of the soldier's gesture becomes a secret talisman, a private truth she holds close. It proves that human connection, however fleeting, can exist even in the deepest circle of hell. It is a truth that contradicts everything she has ever been told, and in that contradiction, there is a strange and unexpected hope. In the years that follow, the years of the camps, the eventual release into a country that is nothing but rubble and shame, the slow, arduous process of rebuilding a life from scratch, that memory remains. It becomes a defining moment, a psychological landmark. In a world that had been stripped down to ideologies of hate, to the simple, brutal arithmetic of us versus them, one man's decision to share a piece of chocolate had reintroduced a forgotten complexity. He was not the American, he was a man. And if he was a man, then the entire carefully constructed edifice of propaganda and hatred was built on a foundation of lies. She would learn later that the D-ration bar he gave her was known to American soldiers as a Hitler secret weapon because its taste was so notoriously bitter. It was designed for survival, not pleasure. The irony is not lost on her. In the darkest moment of her life, she was given a bitter piece of chocolate, and it tasted like salvation. It was not an act of friendship, or pity, or love. It was something more basic. It was an act of recognition. He saw not a female enemy combatant, not a cog in the Nazi war machine, but a cold, frightened young woman. And in that moment of seeing, he affirmed her humanity when she was certain it had been stripped away forever. Decades later, as an old woman with grandchildren who know war only from history books, Annalise Schmidt would still remember the rain, the mud, and the crushing despair of that field. She would remember the face of the young American corporal, etched with a weariness that transcended nationality. It was a moment that lasted no more than 2 minutes, a silent transaction in the dark. But it was the moment the war truly ended for her, not with an armistice or a treaty, but with an unspoken word, a simple gesture that taught her a lesson no army, no government, no ideology ever could, that even in the midst of total war, the enemy has a human face, and sometimes he offers you chocolate.